Hi guys, I hope you're all safe and well. It's Mitch here. I'm just coming on to do one of my little waffle videos because I haven't done one for a little while. And I wanted to do one about experiences as a medium and just experiences in general, really. Now, I try and answer people's questions from time to time as and when they sort of message me or whatever. And a question that I've had probably like the last 3 or 4 months, which I just haven't got around to answering, is something I want to talk about and look at today, if possible. And that basically is now, this is quite a weird and sort of quite a dark subject matter, so I don't want to freak people out with this. So I want to make it clear that I can only speak from my own accounts, I can only speak from my own experiences of what I've come to learn, to process, to understand as a medium. This doesn't make it scientific fact because Mitch has said it, not at all. So take this information obviously as you want, take it with a pinch of salt. All I can say is this is the experience that I have had, and this is my account of it. That's all I can say, really. So the question is, or the question in hand, lots of people have been asking me, is there such a thing as a physical character of death, sort of like a Grim Reaper, if you will. But is there actually a physical embodiment of what death is? Death is something we know that happens. It's the one secure, it's the one given thing we all know, whether we're old, whether we're young, whether we are animal, plant, vegetable, whatever. We know that at some point death will get us. It's something we can't escape. So we know that the process, the physical action of death happens, but the question I've been getting asked, is there an actual character, a representation of death? And in my belief system and in my experience, there is. There is a character of death. And I'm going to tell you what I've experienced and what I've witnessed. Now, I've never connected with death through direct mediumship. I've always only connected with the spirits that death has taken. Through direct mediumship, but I have seen death in my own sort of everyday world, if you like. Now, probably about, where are we now? It's probably about 4 years ago this experience happened to me. And what's quite interesting as well is if you actually look this subject matter up online, if you go onto various paranormal sites or Google or whatever, actually all through history, right back since the beginning of time, there has been accounts and acclaims of people seeing a version of death, or if you like, a Grim Reaper. I use the term Grim Reaper very loosely because I don't like that sort of titling, I'll be honest. Now, whether this is one spiritual being or energy that has been the same consistent all the way through, or whether this version of death is a little bit like the Pope, in the sense of the Pope is passed down, the energy of the Pope is passed down, and I'm wondering if the job title or the job situation of death is similar. I'm kind of wondering that a little bit. So if there's like different people that take on the role, or what that is. But I can honestly say I do believe that death exists in the sense of a physical being, not just the process. We know the process, that is scientifically proven, but everything else is up for debate, really, isn't it? But probably about 4 years ago now, as a lot of you guys know, my dad had a cardiac arrest back in New Year. And um, what was quite interesting is the lead up to that week. So, about a week before he had that cardiac arrest, I just happened to be over at mum and dad's house one day, as I often do, often pop in now and again. I think I'd been doing an event or something, and it happened to be a day when dad was working. He was working late somewhere. He'd gone to price up a job or do a job. He's a carpenter by trade, by the way, for those of you who don't know, and he'd been off doing a price up. And um, there were some clothes on the side, and my mum had said to me, "Oh, you couldn't pop those up and put those on your dad's bed, could you?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." And for those of you who may not be aware, this is probably a bit of an overshare, but I feel it might be relevant. Mum and dad, like a lot of people when they get to their sort of age, bless them, through just because they want to be comfortable. They now have separate rooms, so they don't sleep together anymore. Dad's got his king size bed, mum's got her king size bed, different parts, different ends of the house, and it works for them. They still love each other very dearly. They're still an amazing couple, but they just don't sleep together because dad snores too much, mum tosses and turns, so they just need their own space. So, but anyway, so I was asked, could I put these clothes up on the bed? And then when mum would come up later on, she'd put them away for my dad, or he'd do it, or whatever. I was like, yeah, sure, that's no problem. So I took these clothes up the stairs. I went into my dad's room, and which is the room he's in, has always been the official their bedroom, if you like. It's always been their bedroom. And this is a family home since I was a kid, so I've always known that house to be the family home. And beautiful space. I've never ever felt scared or weird or anything in there. And as I put the clothes on the bed, I went over to the window and looked outside, and I was just looking at the street. And I always remember when we were kids, we used to play jailbreak, and we were quite unruly, actually. And this was before, obviously, the days of Facebook and social media and iPhones and all of this. This was when I sort of feel kids could be kids. And we used to literally rule the streets. We used to play jailbreak, all different sort of games. And very often, when we were hiding or when we were doing bits and pieces with some of these games, I think my sister did as well, but I definitely used to sometimes sneak into the house, go up into my parents' bedroom and look out the window. And I used to use it as like a lookout tower, because from their bedroom window you could see all the different people's houses. You could see like into some of the back gardens a little bit. You could sort of see where people might be hiding and everything else. So I was just looking out the window, reminiscing on those times, those old days. And beknownst to me, directly across where my parents' house is, there's another house like opposite. So there's the road, and then there's another house with a big drive, and that's the adjoining sort of onward as you see house. And I just happened to see this figure looking at me. And I hadn't really noticed them at first. I just assumed, because I saw them out of the corner of my eye, and I just sort of thought, oh, it's the neighbour over the road pottering around doing whatever they're doing. And then I sort of looked closer, and I saw that this was a figure that was dressed in pure black. So they had black, like kind of cape, hood. They had a mask which looked skeleton like. Or there was a face there, but the face wasn't white, it was pure black. And they were just looking at me. And I was like, am I dreaming this? Am I imagining this? But it was real. It was a 100% real experience. And they started walking over to me, and it was quite slow at first, but it was becoming faster. And they were literally walking over. And the only way I can describe it, for those of you that may have seen the Shakespeare Sisters song Stay, when one of the girls, the one I can't remember the names, when the one with the long hair, she takes on the representation of death and she starts walking down the stairs. That's the only way I can describe the experience I was feeling. And this character, we were like locked in our eyesight with each other. So even though it was like a mask almost, they were just looking directly at me, but they literally were walking sort of across the road, but then it's almost like as if they were walking up to the window, and it really scared the shit out of me, I'm not gonna lie, to the point where I started pulling back, and then I got caught on the bed, and literally I fell on the bed, and it made me really sort of jump. And then I got up and I looked out the window, and there was nothing there. And it wasn't like a split second thing, it was quite a few minutes, it felt like. And I went downstairs, looked out the outside windows down there, and I said to mum, have you seen anything? Because she was like, no. And I explained to her about the, what had happened. And she's like, no, there's no one there. And, me and my mum have got, for those of you who know, we've got a very close relationship. And she could see I was quite spooked out. And she knows I wouldn't have made that up for no reason, because there was no point in making something like that up. So she was a little bit freaked out that I was a bit freaked out almost. And in all my years of doing mediumship, and yeah, there are sometimes negative spirits and otherworldly things. None of that's really scared me, but that particular thing really, really scared me. And it stuck with me for a little while because I couldn't put my finger on what it was. What was it wanting? What was that about? I didn't know. And then a couple of days later, obviously we moved into New Year's Eve, and what happened with my dad happened. And for those of you who don't know, he had a massive cardiac arrest, and he was actually pronounced dead for about 8 to 10 minutes before resuscitation basically. And my mum did CPR on him, and obviously when the paramedics come, all the kit, boom, 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 bringing him back, and eventually he did come back, and I can thankfully say now he's back with us, and he's back to a relatively normal state, and he's doing amazing since. And I now realize that what I had witnessed was the character of death. And it's interesting because, as well, the room I was in is my dad's bedroom. And I think that that was death trying to warn me something was going to happen. So even though it was a very scary experience, I don't think death is bad. I don't think death is this evil presence. I don't think that. I think they were just trying to pre-warn me something was going to take place, something was going to happen. But there were no words, there was no telepathic communication. It was just all visual. And of course, I didn't know what was going to happen. Um, so it was scary, but I also feel in some ways now that there was reassurance and there was peace that that person was just coming to make me aware of that situation. But it's interesting, and I wanted to share it with you because so many people have been asking, is there a representation of death? And for me, he was crystal clear. I saw him physically, not like I see spirit where it's transparent. He was physical form, you know. And I work a lot with the Everyday Witches Tarot, and I was looking through the cards today, and I noticed that their pictation of death is very similar to basically what I saw. The only slight difference is this person didn't have a sword and the face was black. So I wanted to share the card with you because, so I don't know if you can see that too well, but this is pretty much, I would say 95% like the figure of what I saw. Like I say, the face was black and a bit more skeleton-like, and there was no sword. So that is obviously quite scary to witness midday. And it was only like, what, 2 o'clock in the afternoon? It wasn't night or nothing, it was daytime. I know it was a weekend, I remember that much. So to see that was quite freaky. I know it wasn't somebody dressed up in a character or going to a fancy dress party because it's a little elderly couple that live over the road. So I know for a fact it was nothing like that. And the fact also, like as they were looking, it's almost like they started to walk. When they kind of got to a point, they started to walk as they were floating up, so like they were sort of levitating off the ground. It's a really weird experience, and it's one of those experiences that will always stay with me, that I just thought, that's interesting. That is quite freaky in its own way, you know. um but like I say, knowing what I know now, I don't think it necessarily was, or I don't think that death is bad. I honestly feel that there's a job role there, like the Pope. I think, like we have the physical Pope on this earth, death is a job role. And I feel like there are numerous people that take on the character of that to do what is needed. Um, but it's interesting, isn't it? And like I say, when you sort of go through, if you research and if you go back through history, there are numerous accounts of this. The same way that there are numerous accounts of UFO sightings or spiritual activity and paranormal activity. So it comes under the umbrella of all of that, of course. And it's just one of those really interesting experiences. And I think this is what I love about mediumship and being a medium, even though there's so much amazing stuff that I get to do and that I get to witness. I feel in some ways spirits still only show us a fragmentation of what is beyond the veil. I don't think we see half of what there is there. I think we're sort of shown a very small window, and there's so much to still discover. So it's interesting. But anyway, I wanted to leave that with you. It's an experience that I wanted to share. Like I say, I don't want to freak anybody out with it, but I just felt it was important to share it because it's stuck with me for a long, long time. And recently, lots of people have been asking. So I felt the time was right to sort of share that. So I'm going to leave it with you. I hope it resonates. Well, I don't know if it resonates, but it's an experience anyway. But like I say, all of us, whether we are spiritually connected or just do our physical world, we're all learning, we're all on a journey. And I think the fact that these experiences come in, it reminds us that we're always learning, we're always understanding, every strand, every thread, every piece of life, aren't we, really? So anyway, I'm going to leave it with you, and yeah, I will do some more videos as and when. But if you have a question or if you have something you want to know about, if I can answer it, I will try and compose a video. I may have done a video around the subject matter already, in which case I might redirect you to one of my pre-existing videos. But look after yourself, and I will catch up soon. Bye for now.